Solvexia thanks you for taking the time to view this demonstration. Before we start, we would like to take a few moments to position Solvexia's offering within the information technology spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, companies have their core systems. These include their accounting systems, admin systems, CRM systems, data warehouses, resource allocation systems, etc. At the other end of the spectrum, staff use desktop tools such as Excel and Microsoft Access to produce information and reports quickly to meet ever-evolving demands from management and regulators. Some of these are one-offs, but a number get done repeatedly, daily, weekly, or monthly. These often contain information that is very important to the business. They are managed manually, lack documentation, are typically understood by only one or two people, and have few audit controls. Management may intend to bring some of this reporting into the core systems, but this takes time due to the long list of IT development projects and the long development times typically seen in IT departments of such companies. In some cases, the development of core systems may lag 3 to 5 years behind the needs of the business. It is this gap between the one-off spreadsheets and the core systems of the company that Solvexia fills. It provides most, if not all, of the controls that core systems provide, but retains the creativity and flexibility of Excel, Access, and other systems, and can be implemented very quickly. This means that users are less concerned if the implementation time of core systems drags on, since they have a functioning solution in the meanwhile. The process specifications produced by the Solvexia system can also be very useful to the IT staff developing and testing the core systems sometime later. One person at a global financial institution described our system as a tactical solution which can fill the gap whilst long-term strategic solutions are being developed. As a business moves forward, there will always be new gaps emerging, despite the continued development of core systems. With that as background, let us now look at Solvexia in action running in a browser. This is the Solvexia workspace. Along the top, we see the familiar MS Office-like menu system together with the ribbon which contains all the functions that can be performed under the specific menu item we have selected. On the left-hand side, we have a typical file management display arranged in a hierarchical fashion. In the file management system, we see all the processes to which we have access. We are going to be working with the generic demo process, so we open that by double-clicking it, and we see that we have a number of files associated with the generic demo, as well as a list of the recorded runs that we have performed of this particular process. At the bottom of the workspace, we also now see our process steps. In this case, we have 4 so-called step groups, each of which consists of a number of steps. The first step, under Set, Parameters, and Upload, is typically an overview of the entire process, which in this case consists of the preparation of a spreadsheet in a selected currency for emailing to recipients as specified in a distribution list in one of 3 countries: the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Solvexia defines 2 types of steps. Data steps, which allow the uploading of files such as Excel, Access, CSV, and text for processing. The setting of various parameters for controlling the process, such as dates, checkboxes, selections, or any values. And action steps, which have a number of categories, as you can see here, some of which have a rich set of instructions as illustrated now. These instructions correspond exactly to manipulations that can be performed in Excel, and therefore users who are familiar with Excel are immediately comfortable and knowledgeable about their use. The The set of instructions are continually being expanded and enhanced based on feedback from our clients. The first real step in our example process is to specify parameters such as the reporting date, the currency selected for this particular instance, and the distribution list that is to be used for this particular run. We then also upload some data files generated by the general ledger containing the current profit and loss, a set of exchange rates, and a forecast of profit and loss generated by a statistical forecasting program. We have to upload a template for containing and processing all the information which we are going to merge, and that is in an Excel spreadsheet format. The second step group in the process is to convert and aggregate data. You will have noticed that some of the files we uploaded earlier were in a comma-separated value or CSV format, some were in text or TXT format, and others were in Excel spreadsheet format. Step 1 in this group would be to import the currency rates into the management report. In this particular step, we will take the exchange rate values in a CSV and convert it into our monthly management report workbook, specifying the sheet name that we want to use. We specify the target cell block as A1. There are other parameters we can specify, such as what to do if we have input records which do not conform to our expectation. We go through a similar step for the profit and loss and for the forecast, each of these steps populating a specific worksheet within our monthly management report. We also insert the selected currency code that was captured in step 1.2 into our worksheet, update the reporting date selected, and we now are basically good to go. We just need to do some validation of the data just imported from the disparate sources in step group 3 because we don't want to email information that is not correct to all and sundry. For example, we can now compare the row names in the projection versus the row names in the profit and loss and make sure that these are the same. And if they are not, the step should fail. Another validation step is to make sure that we don't have any invalid references, any instances where we are dividing by 0, or any other errors that Excel might find in our management report. If we find such errors, we would want to stop the process and email the author of this process with a notification that this step has failed due to a validation error. We can have a look at how this particular dependency is defined, but first we have to give ourselves the authority to access that. We go into design mode by clicking on the design mode button, which allows us to inspect and modify the process. Clearly, access to design mode can be restricted by user. We can now edit the step dependencies. For example, here we have a dependency which specifies to skip this step if validating cells or workbook, step 3.2, completed successfully. Therefore, if 3.2 completed successfully, we will skip the email regarding the failure of the process. As you can see, we have a variety of dependency types to select from, and the parameters of each dependency can be easily specified through a simple drag and drop mechanism. If we wish to see a simple visual representation of step dependencies, we can toggle on Show Dependencies. Here we see how step 3.2 is dependent on 3.1, and how step 3.3 will only execute if step 3.2 fails. Otherwise, step 4.1 will follow. We are now ready to publish the results in step group 4. In step 4.1, we will extract the total profit, reformat it in step 4.2, and then in step 4.3 send out an email to each person on the distribution list, customizing it with their first and last names supplied by the CSV file imported earlier. The spreadsheet that the process has assembled from the supplied data is included as an attachment, which we will shortly have a look at. Lastly, we will send an SMS text to the process owner informing that process has been run successfully. Now we are ready to run the process. When we click on Run the Process, we are asked to provide a short description and optionally a future date and time to run the process. We can also elect to save the results of the entire run as a set of files as a record. When we are ready, we click on Run, and the icons next to the steps turn to purple clocks, turning to a blue arrow while executing, and then turning to green check marks as the steps are completed, all except for step 3.3, which is skipped. The first spreadsheet in the workbook contains the results downloaded from our general ledger. The second spreadsheet contains the exchange rates obtained from, presumably, a website, and the third spreadsheet contains the predicted profit and loss values downloaded from the statistical projection system. Our combined spreadsheet now shows all of these elements in the selected currency, including an indication of which currency was selected. We see the actual results for the past 3 months and the forecast results for the next 3 months. Lastly, we can reproduce this information in a graphical format. Note that this is obviously a function of Excel and not necessarily Solvexia as such. However, you will note that all of the references, such as US dollar, have been updated and reflect the choices that we made earlier. The email that we sent is received in good order, customized as we intended, and shows the profit in the selected currency. Let us now have a look at some of the development and documentation resources. We have already referred to the file management facility where we can see in which step each file was last changed and when. We also have a process document which fully documents the entire process, shows the files that are updated with a full detailed history of changes, and a history of any changes to the process itself. We also have a process flowchart showing the entire process in graphical form, with all the input files, log files, step groups, steps, and dependencies. This diagram can be resized and reformatted as necessary and printed. Lastly, we can examine a file history report where we can, for a given file, examine every change that was made in detail down to the cell level. We will know who made the change and when. We can now examine the file in question before and after each change. That concludes our demonstration of the Solvexia Process Automator. Solvexia brings benefits above and beyond those demonstrated here. For example, our clients are reducing the time taken to produce reports dramatically. In one case, the production time of a report to a stock exchange from a bank was cut from over a day to less than 10 minutes. Error rates are reduced significantly. It has been well documented that error rates increase substantially after an hour or so of uninterrupted manual work. The Solvexia system automates work and eliminates errors caused by fatigue and loss of concentration. Since less time is spent doing the repetitive manual work, more time is available for checking, analysis, and communication, thus making the information more valuable. Reports can be produced earlier and more quickly. As a result, the information is up to date and therefore more useful. We believe that you will agree that Solvexia is a simple and effective tool to enable and encourage the end user to save time, reduce errors, and be more creative using available end-user computing tools such as Excel, while still having all the necessary governance and auditability that one could wish for built into the background in an unobtrusive way.